All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we cement the Niners draft plan for the upcoming NFL Draft 2025. And we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. From 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. Also, we are brought to you by our good friends at LearnKey Upskill Academy. Great news for Krug Show subscribers. Our sponsor, LearnKey, is offering a free cybersecurity course valued at only $99. The course is titled Protecting Yourself and Your Organization. It's just a 1 hour long course and will give you essential tips to keep you and your company safe online. It's a limited time offer, so don't miss out. Click the link in the description below in this video to claim your free course and start learning today at upskill.learnkey.com. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Niners. We're getting close to the draft. Draft's coming up in a very short amount of time on the 24th. So we're inside of 10 days until the beginning of the 2025 NFL Draft, and there's still an awful lot of conjecture out there as to what the 49ers ought to do. Do they trade up into the top 5 and try to get somebody? Do they trade up a couple spots and try to pick off a certain particular prospect? Do they stay where they're at? Do they trade back, trying to, accrue more picks? The 49ers now have 11 picks in this draft. And if they want to trade back, we'll see if it's possible. Just because you want to trade back doesn't mean that somebody's willing to trade up. You need a partner to trade up. Now, who could be a player or two that teams would trade up for? Well, there's a lot of talk that Cam Ward, of course, is going to go number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. But we're going to see Shedeur Sanders. We're going to see Jackson Dart. And we're going to see Jalen Milroe all come off the board in round 1, most likely. And so the 11th pick, now the premier picks in the top 10, I got to think that the Darts and the Milroes and the Sanders of the world probably fall in behind those guys. You're not going to pick a second-tier quarterback, and I kind of think all of them are second-tier quarterbacks ahead of a true franchise-altering player, and that's where the franchise-altering players sit in the top 10. So I actually don't think that those 3 quarterbacks are going in the top 10, but I think all 3 of them are going in round 1. And so if you want to get ahead of this, some of these teams that are quarterback needy, who may try to trade back in to the first round, from 25 down, you might want to trade in front of them and trade in front of all of them if you could. And with the 11th pick, you could guarantee yourself to be in front of all those teams and have your pick. Now, I'm not a big fan of those guys. I'm not a huge fan of Jackson Dart. I thought he was up and down. He had the most talented team in college football that didn't even make the playoff. So I'm not a big Jackson Dart guy. I'm not a Shedeur guy either. I don't see I see the accuracy, but I don't see a strong arm. I don't see processing. I don't see consistency. I see low end traits across the board. Not a fan of Shedeur. And other people love him. Heck, Mel Kiper compared him to Joe Montana. And then the third guy, Jalen Milroe, he was horrible at the Senior Bowl at the end of the year. We're not talking about horrible 3 years ago. We're talking about horrible in the All-Star game like a month ago. Terrible. Couldn't make a throw. Just looked really, really bad. And yet he's 6'2", 220 with 4.3 speed, and everybody needs a quarterback. And, lots of teams need a quarterback, and he's going to be overdrafted. He's been invited to the draft, so he's going in the first round, most likely. That invitation almost guarantees that he's going in the first round. So I think you have teams that are going to be, and then there's Teteroa McMillan. I think Dallas, would probably love to have Ashton Genty or a Teteroa McMillan. If either one of those guys is on the board at 11, I could see the 49ers trading back for a team that wants to trade up for one of those 2 skill position guys, maybe even Tyler Warren. Somebody suggested to me in a note recently as like 10 minutes ago that, maybe the Colts, if, Tyler Warren goes top 10, or Colston Loveland goes top 10, maybe they'll try to trade from 14 to 11 to get that other tight end, seeing that they have a real need there. So maybe the Niners could trade back with the Colts. You have to have somebody who's willing to trade up, but you also have to be willing to take a moderate price to move back. So why would the Niners move back instead of picking? Well, that's a great question. Let's share the screen and show you this tweet from Jeff Zrebiak. And Jeff was on the Krug show when the Niners took on the Ravens on Christmas a couple years ago. So we've had him on before, and he's an interesting guy, and he's a smart guy. And he tweeted out today, Eric DeCosta, obviously Eric DeCosta of the Ravens, met with the media today. He says, Eric DeCosta said the team has 217 draftable players. There are a total of 257 picks in this upcoming draft. He said there's been some years where the Ravens have struggled finding 165 draftable players. He touted the importance of the middle round picks in this draft. Bingo. Okay, so I think Eric DeCosta is one of the sharper GMs going. And every mock draft that I've seen, people would say, well, Krug, how come you have these, 15, 16, 18, 20 player mock drafts? And, they're not going to do that. Well, it's funny because every single time I do one of these mock drafts where they offer trades and I take the trades and I move back, I'm always looking up at the end of the draft going, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. So can the Niners trade back? I don't know if they can, but there's no doubt in my mind they should. What Eric DeCosta is describing here is 50 or 60 more draftable players, according to him and the Ravens personnel department, compared to some years where there's 165 draftable players. They're close to 220 this year. So that means that, your 5th round pick, your 6th round pick, and even your 7th round pick, if you're astute, could wind up being a draftable player that could fill a significant role in your football team. So I think that's really interesting. So with this as the premise, with the Ravens GM, I think the Ravens probably do the draft during the Ozzie Newsome and Eric DeCosta years, probably as well as anybody in football. They really do a nice job. They don't overplay it. And I remember one time talking to Bucky Brooks from the NFL Network, and talking to him about why the Ravens are a really good drafting team. And he says they draft great college players. They're not so tied up on the 40 times and the workout numbers and this and that. What the guy did at the combine, they go find great college players who, for whatever reason, fell to them in the draft, and they draft them. And they keep drafting great college players. And to me, I mean, if you go chart great NFL players, I would almost say, as a rule, there's almost no such thing as an NFL player who was great in the NFL but wasn't great in college. So stop looking at these players that weren't great in college and drafting them because they almost never become great players in the pros. I mean, for every 100 players that aren't good in college, I bet you there's not even one that wind up being really good in the pros. If you have to, it's almost like a prerequisite. You have to be good in college. Now, most of these guys are really good. That's the draft is about identifying false favorites because everybody's good. Everybody was the best player on their college team. But here's the thing. You're really killing yourself in the draft if you start drafting college players that weren't very good because they have the right arm length. They weren't very good, but they got the right hand size. They weren't very good, but they had the right Wonderlic score. They weren't very good, but they had the highest 3-cone drill. It's like, what are we talking about here? Is the job to play? Does anybody ever win the Super Bowl because they had the most players with the best 3-cone drill numbers? No. It's about football. These tests give you an indication of who the good football players are, but at the end of the day, you're trying to discern who the good football players are. So how much credence are you going to put in a 3-cone drill in an empty stadium in the offseason compared to what the guy did, I don't know, in games, in his season, maybe in the college football playoffs? So that's why the Ravens are so good. They map things out. They have a pretty good idea of the picture of the whole draft this year. They think it's a very deep draft with lots of mid-round picks that could become very, very good players. And they don't reach for just workout warriors. You always have heard of their guys because they're always seemingly great college players who, for whatever perceived flaw, fell into the Ravens' lap at the end of the round, which is generally where they pick. So let's do this. We'll stop sharing Jeff Zrebiak's tweet on Eric DeCosta, and I will share the screen instead on a mock draft, and we'll just walk through this and take a peek to see exactly how accurate this thing is as far as the statement that there's good players in the mid rounds. So we'll just look at who's up the highest rated players on the board. Okay, so we'll enter the draft. We'll take a look, see how this goes. We'll do it relatively quickly. Okay, so the Niners are picking at 11. Okay, who do we take at 11? We're just trying to take a look at who's going to be there in the mid rounds. I want great players. I think Jalen Walker's great. We'll take Jalen Walker. There we go. All right, now we're in the second round. We're at pick 43. Now, some people have suggested the Niners trade this pick. I think this right here is a good example of why you wouldn't trade the 43rd pick, because you got some serious great players on the board right here that could have been first-round picks. Let's take a look. Benjamin Morrison, the corner from Notre Dame. I mean, this guy's film is like that of a top half of the first round corner, except the injuries this year knocked him down. So he's a first-round pick for sure. He's sitting there at 41. Trey Amos, I think, is a first-round pick. Big, talented corner. Really, really successful in the SEC. He's there at 47. Jalen Knoll is a tremendous receiver from Iowa State. Great speed and production and hands. He's there at 49. He could be a late first-round pick. I think Quinshon Judkins could be a first-round pick, the talent that he has at Ohio State. Maxwell Hairston ran 4.28. The corner from Kentucky, best time of anybody, and he's a really good football player. So anyway, you're looking at some players here that potentially could fall into the second round that are pretty good players. So we'll just take one. We'll take the corner here. Since I talked up Benjamin Morrison, we'll take Morrison. Okay, so now, we're picking at pick 75, and we're taking a look at who's on the board. And to me, if it fell this way, you would take Oladejo, no problem. That you probably could have taken him in the second round. I think that's a little early for him, so you take him in the third round. Okay, so now we are here late third round. Now, this is where I'm talking about. For this pick, the fourth round pick and the fifth round pick. So let's take a look. The Niners have 2 picks in the fifth, 2 picks in the fourth, and they have 2 picks in the third, and this is the second of the 2. So now this is the neighborhood. If you traded down from 11, you would probably accrue another pick in this neighborhood. So, let's just take a look. I mean, who's on the board here that could be really intriguing? DJ Giddens is a starting NFL running back. I think a damn good one. Demetrius Knight easily could be the starter opposite Fred Warner at inside linebacker. He's a really nice player. Jonas Sanker could be a starter at safety for the 49ers. Savion Williams could be a replacement for Debo. CJ West could be your starter at defensive tackle on your defensive line. He could be the teeth of your front line on a line that includes Nick Bosa. The Oronde Gadsden. I was just talking to Greg Papa and Greg Silver on KMBR, and I was talking about how incredible Oronde Gadsden is as a movement tight end. Jacob Parrish, starter at corner, who ran 4.36 and is really, really strong tackler. Damian Martinez is a good back. Dante Thornton's a super fast, huge receiver, 6'5", who runs 4.30. David Walker is a tremendous edge rusher. Jordan Phillips, I think, is a really intriguing pass rushing interior tackle with some, wrestling background. I love the profile of Jordan Phillips. Quincy Riley. Niners met with Quincy Riley multiple times. Obviously, he's a cornerback they really like. So my whole point is, if you trade back from 11, instead of getting one player here, you could get 2 or 3 players here. And look at the guys on the board. I mean, there's the starters. If you could get CJ West and Demetrius Knight, now you've added a big time tackle and a starting inside linebacker. because you traded back from 11 a few spots. So let's just for this purpose, we'll just play this out. They've gotten, let's see, a pass rusher, a corner, and another or a linebacker, a pass rusher, and a corner. Okay, so they don't have that defensive lineman. So we'll go down here. We'll take CJ West. Okay, so now we have CJ West at 100. Now we're picking again at 113. But imagine if you had another pick in between there. I mean, there was a lot of really good players there. You could have taken Demetrius Knight, Savion Williams. In this scenario, you've got a linebacker, a corner, an edge. How about an offensive lineman? Let's take a look at an offensive lineman here. Chase Lunt is a great movement tackle, but I love Anthony Belton. He's a house. He's like a condominium complex. He's so big. So now now this would be intriguing too. If the Dolphins called saying we want pick 138, here's 150, 224, 231, 253, and you basically are they're giving you 2 extra picks. That would be intriguing to move down 12 spots, in whatever round we're in here. This is the beginning of the 5th round or the end of the 4th round. So that would be interesting. So you got a tackle right there in Anthony Belton. Okay, so here, let's go best of all. This should give you a pretty good indication. Once again, if you trade back from 11, you're getting picks between 100 and 150 generally. So let's see who's on the board here. Demetrius Knight, Damian Martinez, Jordan Phillips. I'm not a big Jamari Caldwell fan, but whatever. Savion Jones, love Savion Jones. A lot of people like Malachi Moore, think he's a really polished safety. J.J. Pegues, Garrett Dellinger, good interior lineman from the SEC. Devin Neal is a star, I think, the running back from Kansas. Kyle Monangai from Rutgers, one of my favorite running backs. Elijah Roberts, a really, really good, kind of a positionless rusher from SMU. 290-pound guy. He can play defensive end. He can play defensive tackle. He could really help your pass rush. Cody Simon's a damn good linebacker. Antoine Powell-Ryland is an outstanding edge rusher. Papa's a big fan of Kyle McCord. Brashard Smith. Eric Branch wrote an article today about how Brashard Smith is a good fit for the Niners, and I agree. Brashard Smith is a electric, dynamic, home run hitting playmaker. So, I mean, these are the kinds of players that are going to be on the board in this 100 to 150 range. And all I'm saying is if you trade back from 11, you get maybe a couple more of these players. Aeneas Peebles, I think, is a really good player. I'd love to see the Niners get Aeneas Peebles. Ty Robinson, the better half of Robinson and Nash Hutmacher, the better half of that duo in Nebraska is Ty Robinson, who also had the best 40 time of any defensive tackle at the combine. You got Mitchell Evans. You got Zoff Frazier. I mean, you got some good players here. Ricky White. I mean, Ricky White is a really, really intriguing player. He's a 23-year-old wide receiver prospect. And, he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's ranked among the top receivers in yards per route run. 11% of his routes went for a first down. Only 5 wide receivers had a better number than that. He's consistently produced against a variety of defenses. And so he's a viable option if you need a reliable receiver. And this guy ran a solid 4.49 40, checks off a lot of boxes. He's going to help you on special teams. He blocked an FBS record 4 punts this year. There was no team in FBS that blocked 4 punts as a team. This guy blocked 4 punts as an individual. So this guy's a sleeper. He's an absolute sleeper on day 3 of the draft. And the kind of guy that, that you could pick. You could definitely pick if you get extra picks in this range. So we'll just, for the sake of it, we'll take Aeneas Peebles here, just because Peebles is that dangerous as an interior rusher. Demetrius Knight actually might be the pick. Let me take Demetrius Knight instead. So I'll take Demetrius Knight. I'm at 147. Now I'm probably looking for Peebles if he's here. And he is here. So there he is. 160, maybe I'm looking for somebody who's dynamic. I like Monangai, Antoine Powell-Ryland. I'll take Brashard Smith there. Now we're moving down the board. Now we're late in the 7th round. There's a big, the Niners have a break between 160 and their next pick, which is 227. So lots and lots and lots of good players are coming off the board. And then in these picks, you just go best available. And if you can get a couple extra picks, you're doing really well. Now, so best available, just looking at this list right here, Kalel Mullings is a really good, powerful back from Michigan. Love him. He would be on my list for sure. I'm really a believer in the day 3 linebackers, and I like this kid, Nick Martin. So we're taking him. He looks good. Now I'm at pick 252. Now I'm looking for the best available player, and we'll just go take a look at who's left. Brady Cook, if you want a quarterback. Krosky Merritt was the MVP of the Shrine game. Montrell Johnson's a good player. There's some good running backs there. Shunderick Powell. Receiver wise, Andrew Armstrong. There's some guys there. Arian Smith ran a great 40. Sam Brown. Let's take a look at offensive guard. Cooper Mays. Okay. There's some decent players there. It's a little thinned out. Let's take a look at the center spot. Okay. Let's see tackles. There's day 3 tackles here. Caleb brought. Let's see. Did the Niners have a tackle? No, the Niners have not in this. Oh, yeah, they have Anthony Belton. So, but Caleb Rogers had a great shuttle time. Caleb Etienne's interesting. The Niners looked at him. Niners looked at Branson Taylor. There's some interesting guys here. Miles Hinton went to Stanford. It was a teammate of Drake Nugent and then transferred to Michigan. So there's some interesting day 3 developmental tackles. The corner is always another spot to keep looking at. Ventrell Cypress, the third, is a good zone corner from Florida State. Bilal Kone from Western Michigan's an intriguing athlete. Jordan Clark, that's Ryan Clark's son. Carlin Viggers from Louisiana Monroe, it's a decent corner. Triquise Bridges from Florida was a 5-star high school recruit. BJ Mays. So there's interesting players there. Once again, I like the day 3 linebackers, so let's go look at that list. Jackson Woodard, really good player. Aaron Smith from South Carolina State, really good player. Carson Bruner ran in the 4.5s. Jalen Walker might be my pick from Indiana. He's really good. David Benda from Texas. Chandler Martin from Memphis. And then Eugene Asante's down here from Auburn. Now, somebody said Eugene Asante may have a neck issue. I'll probably go Chandler Martin here. So that would be my pick. Chandler Martin's a really instinctive linebacker, comes from a great family, very productive. Had him on the show a few weeks ago, an incredible kid. So what did you get out of this draft? Okay, well, you got Jalon Walker, whatever. You got, you get those early picks, but look in the mid rounds. In the mid rounds there, that second column, Anthony Belton, starting tackle, Demetrius Knight, starting linebacker, Aeneas Peebles, absolute situational rusher who can play anywhere. Brashard Smith is a running back, but he could be a super dynamic running back receiver. He could start. Nick Martin could start. Chandler Martin could start. I mean, there's good players on day 2 and especially day 3 and maybe even to late on day 3. That's the point. The point is that that's why you trade back. You trade back because the middle rounds and the later rounds in this draft are fruitful and are going to provide lots and lots of players. And the 49ers need 2 defensive tackles. They probably could use 2 defensive ends and then a pass rusher. So they got to have 5 defensive linemen, got to have 2 linebackers, got to have a free safety, probably got to have 2 corners. All right. So now you're looking at, 5 more players there. So you really need like 10 players on your defense alone. But man, you could use another tight end, and you could use an offensive lineman, and you could use another running back. And how about a quarterback? So now we're at 14. So do you see what I'm saying? The Niners have 11 picks. The trade down from 11 to whatever, 13, 15, 17, 22, somewhere between, let's say, 15 and 25. If you could trade back once or twice from 11 to 15 or 25, accrue more picks at the beginning of day 3. That's where you want to be. Where do you want to be in this draft? You want to be in that 4th round, the beginning of day 3. Let's say you could make a couple of deals and wind up with 3, 4, or 5 extra picks. Then all of a sudden your 11-man draft class becomes a 16-man draft class, or not. Maybe your 11-man draft class becomes a 14-man draft class, and you flip a day 3 pick to the Raiders for Michael Mayer. Maybe you flip a day 3 pick to the Eagles for Bryce Huff. Maybe you flip a day 3 pick somewhere for another veteran player that you really like around the league somewhere. There'll probably be a handful of players that will get traded throughout the draft. Are those players that fit your system that you could take on that don't, cost too much on the cap? So the whole point of the thing is, I think when Eric DeCosta comes out and points out that they have, 50 more draftable players or 40 more draftable players in this year's draft than in past drafts, where some years they're finding a hard time finding a draftable player after the fourth round. Well, now he sees draftable players into the sixth round and probably into the seventh round. And so the trade back becomes really, really popular. Now, it will be popular with a lot of teams, so it may be hard to do. But that would be the goal. You say, what's the goal? Trade up? No. Trading up makes no sense. You're going to trade, 3 picks for 1 pick you're going to take your arsenal of picks from 11 down to 8. So, and when you really have more like a dozen needs, no, I don't think I would do that. I think I would try to go the other way, try to get more mid-round picks if you possibly can, and then hunt for talent and starters and, stock up your roster. This sounds like it may be a developmental year for the 49ers. Why not trade back and get 4 or 5 extra picks and really see if you can turn them into something, especially a team like the 49ers. They've turned a 6th-round pick into DJ Jones. They've turned a 5th-round pick into George Kittle. They've turned a 5th-round pick into Talanoa Hufanga. They took turned the last pick in the draft into Brock Purdy. They took, undrafted free agents and like Kevin Givens and Evan Anderson and Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson and, turn them into players, turn them into useful NFL players. So they've shown a propensity to do it. So that's the plan. That should be the plan. Trade up? No. Plug and pick where you're at? No. Trade back, accumulate more mid-round picks, and then see if you can come away with a 15-man draft class. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to LearnKey's Upskill Academy. The links are in the description below. And thanks to all of you for sponsoring The Krug Show and supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.